Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and I'm here with Matt Walsh from Veep.
Hi, everybody.
And this is Meet Your Emmy nominees. Matt, your second nominee.
Second
for Mike
time
McClintock.
Emmy nominee. Always say that when you introduce me.
Second time Emmy nominee.
Two-time Emmy nominee. That's all I have in life.
Two-timer.
Yeah.
How does it feel? Does it feel different from the first time?
It was exciting. It is like you're more aware of it. Once you've been nominated, you're more aware of like when the nominations come out and you feel like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to get it this year. Mm-hmm. So it sort of plants the seed. You care about it a little more, I think, once you've been nominated.
I see. And do you have a speech prepared?
I don't. I don't have a speech. The only thing is, I was thinking is I'll chastise my children, like tell them they only get one cookie or something.
Right.
I like the idea.
Kids.
Yeah, exactly. I like the idea of talking to the kids at home, but I don't have a speech yet. But I will get on it and hopefully do something. If I win, something slightly funny because I'm a comedian. What is
the Emmys night for a cast member of Veep? Because there are so many people nominated. Is it celebratory? Is it fun? How was your last year?
The Emmys is like a bit of a roller coaster. Last year, my category was the first category. So you sit down and then all of a sudden there's a cameraman in your lap and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? And then you're starting to, and I got so anxious I was like almost praying I didn't win because I truly felt more stage fright than I'd ever felt. And then it's the roller coaster of like all your peers, the writers and directors. And it always boils down to you're not really totally invested until like the cameraman shows up at your row and he's filming the cast for like best comedy, and then you start thinking like, why would they put a camera here if we're not going to win? I feel like we're going to win, and then you don't win or you do win. But it's that roller coaster for every category that you're nominated. You're like, whatever, who cares if we win? And then when the camera guy's there, you're like, oh my God, we could win, we could win.
Do you have any like funny or crazy stories from last year that maybe the cameras didn't pick up?
I sat behind Chris Rock, I think, last year, and he was really funny. I eavesdrop on him. He's just a nice. Funny human being. I wasn't spying on you, Chris Rock, but I happened to hear some of your comments. And it's always funny during commercial breaks, everyone gets out of their seat and they talk to their friends because you don't really get to talk to them. You're all kind of marshaled off in your row. So I sat by Kate McKinnon, so I was talking to her, and then you see like, Jerry Seinfeld comes over to Chris Rock, and it's sort of funny to see all these famous people between the on-air stuff get up and start talking. It's like, oh my God, everyone's here. Like Jimmy Fallon was there, and like it's just neat to see like all these friends get up between segments and start like BSing with each other. So that's kind of fun. And I remember the first or second year we got nominated, me and Reed Scott were locked out because we went to the bar to get a drink and they don't let people back in until they've cut for commercial. So we were outside the room when Veep's category came up. So that, I felt a little bad, like I was a functioning alcoholic in that moment.
Besides your lovely wife who will be sitting next to you,
yes,
who else would you like to be sat next to on the other side?
Like famous person-wise?
Yeah, like if you could sit next to anybody.
That's a great question. Who would I like to? I mean, it's not really a TV person, but like I would go like Paul Thomas Anderson or Martin Scorsese.
Ooh.
Like I would go that. I would love to sit next to like a brilliant director because then I would just get them talking and just listen to every story they've had with every project. So that would be my dream, is to meet like a really, even Tarantino if he's watching.
If you're available.
Please say hi, Quentin. I don't know if they come out for this event, but you never know.
Yeah, I think so. As a founding member of the UCB Theater, do you have any advice for Stephen Colbert for his hosting night?
He's pretty solid. I mean, what he does well is be himself and be really smart and witty. And what the great hosts always do is they comment on the spontaneous things that happen as the show goes on. So it's not really advice, but I think I know his material will be great and I know his delivery will be great, but that intangible is always like if something happens in the room or if somebody had a awkward or weird moment during their speech, you bringing that, speaking to what everyone else is thinking in the room, that's the sort of last 5% of the job. So if he does that well, I assume he'll be great.
And one more question about Emmy night. You're up against Alec Baldwin as Trump for SNL. Do you have anything to say to Alec Baldwin?
Yeah. Do you really need all the work, Alec Baldwin? I mean, what about these other actors who don't have awards and didn't get to do big movies? No, good luck, Alec Baldwin. He's an amazing talent, but that's my first thought.
So let's talk
And
about...
I liked Boss Baby. Really good job in Boss Baby.
Nice.
My kids liked it too.
So let's talk about the episode that you're nominated for, which is Chicklet. Why do you think this episode got you the nomination?
I think for my character, Veep is it's a bit like The Simpsons. There's like 20 characters whose storylines get fed every episode, and I think this one, Mike's storyline was in the front and it had a full arc. And I also think for fans of the show, it was one of those moments where you got to see the history that Mike had with Selena, and you got to see their true friendship come out. And then also just some raw physical comedy, the smashing of the barn, the crashing of a car, the running around. And I think also emotionally, you got to see Mike stick up for himself and challenge Selena's view of her past and point out the fallacy of her imagined memories of her father and mother, which is rare for Mike to sort of stick up to her. And then, of course, the traditional ending for Mike is it doesn't end well, which they always love to hit on Veep. They like keeping that gray cloud above Mike. And
Yes.
he doesn't get to have his daughter's recommendation letter anymore, and she pulls it from him in the last moment. So I think it had the classic things that work well for Mike, and also these things where he got to exercise a muscle that we don't normally get to see. And I think it was quite lovely to see him and Selena fraternize in a fun and, you know, drinking heavy. And it kind of, to me, in my imagination, I think they did that when they first started out in politics.
I heard William H. Macy say that he loves to play drunk. Is it fun to play drunk?
It is. The challenge with drunk is, and I remember doing it with Selena, with Julia, is that it's like, all right, how drunk are we? You just kind of want to dial in, like, are we super drunk? Are we medium drunk? So that's the only challenge. But I do like playing drunk because it kind of gives you more latitude, and it allows you types of behavior that you don't normally exhibit when you're just delivering the lines as you would sober. So I do enjoy drunk. And I think there's a lot of there's more opportunities for physical comedy when you're drunk. So yes, I do like drunk.
How did it feel to destroy the stable? Was that a fun
fun.
scene?
It was so fun. And we got like 4 or 5 takes. And to see the art department build an entire room that you can break, it's just like the best job in the world. Like you show up to work that day, it's like nobody in the world gets to do what I'm doing right now. And we got to do a few like improvised takes once we had it.
That's great.
So that's always fun because they very rarely, but occasionally we get to do takes where we can just kind of make up lines, or they'll give us lines to use or not use. So that having multiple takes of that scene was a real luxury and also a blast.
Was there a take that was just so outrageous that it didn't make it in?
I think on the first take, Julia broke something that we weren't supposed to break, which was like a chandelier. So there was like a whole reset of like fixing this wooden framed chandelier that looked like a wagon wheel. So I think that was something that happened that wasn't planned. And the other funny part is everybody in the room, like the sound and the boom and the grips and everybody was all wearing like protective gear because there was flying glass. So you're like doing the scene and everyone's kind of dressed for the apocalypse. So that was sort of interesting.
That's great. I also love that Mike McClintock is kind of the king of the after comment. Like the little things that he like puts in afterwards, just
understated sort of
amazing.
Things, yes. Thank you. Yeah. I like saying in that scene, I'm a grown man, why do I still eat when I'm full?
That was my favorite too because I could relate to it so much. I was like, wow, I've never been able to like externalize that feeling, but I feel it all the time.
He speaks to the child in all of us. He really is a child. He has very short attention span and he has very little impulse control. That's a lot of what drives Mike.
When we interviewed Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she said that one of her favorite episodes was the flashback episode, which is the last episode, groundbreaking. It's so wonderful to kind of see the characters, and she said that she wore the scrunchie as a little homage to Elaine.
How
did you like your before your 16
I
years
love
later
that Mike,
character?
who doesn't have a lot of hair, or I don't have a lot of hair, still was rocking like that mullet. Like he was still going long hair. And I also like his report. He was almost like a deadhead / like like army jacket kind of communist look. Like he was just coming out of the journalism world, so I think he had a little attitude.
Yeah.
So he's nothing like that now.
Yes.
He's a completely beaten down animal.
His
but
hopes
back
have been
then,
crushed.
yes, yeah. And Tony had full hair, which was hilarious.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wigs were great. Loved it. The hair was so funny.
What are you looking forward to in the next season? Have you thought ahead to like what's going to happen? I feel like we're getting hints of another Selena versus Jonah presidency run.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's going to be interesting to see how she does things differently this time.
Yeah, they've teed that up seemingly like it will be between like Jonah and Selena. I don't know anything about next season, but it does seem it's heading that way. What I like is that we're going to Iowa, and she's going to be doing, I think a year out from the election, she's going to be on the ground in a small town in Iowa with like 8 or 10 other hopefuls crowding this town, and I think like knocking on doors and starting over again. I like that she's back in the game, and I like that we're sort of engaging in politics again. I think this season, thank God, we were out of politics because the craziness in D.C. and the Trump administration is hard to top.
Yeah.
So I like that we have a little space now and we're back engaging with politics and we're sort of more directly involved in the political game. So that'll be interesting, and I don't know what Mike's doing. I have a feeling he might be in the world of blogging or journalism, I think, because he lost his job to Leon West at the end of the episode. But he'll be back. They always find a way to put the band back together.
Do you feel any sort of empathy towards the press secretaries that you've seen in the current Trump administration?
You know, I guess as a human being I do, but as like a logical person I don't, because I feel like if you're going to work for that person, then you just need to quit. Like, he's a terrible president. It's a terrible, chaotic environment. And so you don't want to serve or abet and aid that man or that administration. So at some point, you have to make the moral, ethical decision to go, I quit. I can't work under this. And ultimately, whether I thought he had promise, it has shown quite clearly that there is no promise or there is no benefit to having that man in the office. So I don't in that way.
Yeah.
And I've constantly said, you should quit your job. And Sean Spicer did, and I'm certain more of them will.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like if there's anybody who can top the horrendousness of the Trump administration or the controversy, it might be the writer's room of Veep.
Yeah. I'm excited, and I'm very curious to see who, because every year, like last year, they interviewed Mitt Romney, like candidates who got really close and then failed and what they did afterwards. So I'm very curious. Every season is sort of inspired by these real interviews with real life people. So I'm very curious to see who they pull in and who they get like little factoids to sort of inspire them. But I'm sure it'll be great. Yeah, I do. We have a tremendous writing staff, and the ladies who wrote my episode, or not my episode, but my Emmy nominated episode, are wonderful. So I want to give a shout out to them.
Nice. So do you binge watch television?
I do.
Is there anything that you've been watching lately, and if so, why do you like it?
I binge watched The Fall. I don't know why I liked it, but I loved it. I've been gone for like 40 days in Europe, so I just got home and I'm catching up. I watched like 4 Game of Thrones last night when the kids went to bed, so I'm totally addicted to that. And and I just knocked off Fargo. I hadn't seen any Fargo, and I just knocked off 10 episodes the other day, and that's another great one. So I tend to do drama, actually, not comedy.
What do you like about Fargo?
Oh, God. What I love about Fargo is the setting. It's in the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest, and all the stunning sort of cinematography of, like, the 80s. I believe it's the 80s when they shot it, but, like, just forests and cold and diners in the middle of nowhere and farms in the middle of nowhere. I love the scenery, and then also the understated comedy that comes out of like the movie. Like, there's very awful, horrible, violent things happening, but there's also these mundane conversations that are very funny. So the contrast between those two is really funny, and the performances are excellent. Jesse Plemons, for example, and I forget the other actors' names, but they're all wonderful, really well, and very sort of simply acted, which I love. Very realistic. Nice. Not too hammy.
Yeah, I agree. So I have a series of questions called First, Best, Last,
Is this the
Worst.
Proust questionnaire?
This is it.
Okay. What will I say to God when I die?
Yeah,
Sorry.
right. Oh, man, yes. First job that made you think, I've made it.
Truthfully,
You didn't have to have made it.
Truthfully, I remember being on The Daily Show and going out as myself, and they would say, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Walsh. And I felt like, oh, that's a big deal to be introduced to an audience as your own person. So that would be one example of like, oh, that's a big deal.
Excellent. Best day on the set of Veep.
Oh my
New
God.
Season.
Well, usually it's the last day because that's when catering steps it up, and they bring in crab legs and shrimp and the Sunday cart. So usually the last day on Veep is always great. Best day on Veep, I think it's kind of like school. I think the first day back is really wonderful. Like getting in the room and reading the first scripts is sort of like probably the best day every year because it's like, what have you been up to? Oh my God, what are we doing? You find out all the stories and things like that, and you get to see your old friends that you haven't seen for months. So I think for me, it's the first day back, like the first day of school.
Nice. Last time a fan interaction made you laugh?
A fan interaction made me laugh. Well, I'm going to steal someone else's story here, but I saw Armando, who's the creator of our show in London, and he reminded me of this story where he was directing one of our episodes in Baltimore, and one of the people who was like a background artist said, hey, Armando, I effed your mom. And he thought it would be funny to prove, like, you guys, and then he went on to say, like, you guys swear on your show a lot, and I thought you would think it's funny. So he came out swinging with that sort of joke. So that made me laugh. And then with a fan, I don't know, there was a woman who had me sign her breast once. That made me laugh. I'm like, you want me to sign your breast? Sure. That made me laugh.
And last question, the worst audition experience?
Oh my God, so many. Oh my God, so many. I auditioned for a theater school in New York when I moved to New York, and they said to have one comedic and one dramatic monologue. So I opened up with my comedic monologue, after which the head of the department or head of the school said, okay, do you have anything comedic? And he was dead serious, and I'm like, oh my God, was it really that bad? So that was one of my worst auditions ever. And then the other one was, I just have a flashback when I was doing commercials. I used to do commercials to make a living, and I just remember like not being really psyched. I'm like, I can't go into another audition. I'm just not motivated. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this one. It'll be great. And the first thing when I walked in the room is this, the guy just said, okay, put on the frog costume. And I was already in a terrible mood. I'm like, oh, this is the worst audition ever. Because when you walk in a room and someone says, okay, put on the frog costume, you know it's not going to be a great thing. And you know your place in the universe.
Yes.
In that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for dropping by.
Thank you.
And we will see you on Emmys night.
Yeah, I'll see you out there.
All right.
Look for me on the red carpet. I'll be looking dashing.